Trump was up against the devil's advocate, globalist termites. I want to show you some scriptures on why Trump was correct to put America first and get out of globalism. Every Bible-believing Christian should understand that one world order is not a good idea. Remember the Tower of Babel? Trump needed out of that mess for him and his family's protection. He did his job revealing the wickedness in politics, in media, and big tech today. I'm thankful to Trump because he may have awakened people, and that in a little while it might spare this country. I think saying the devil's advocate rather than what I really want to say is more palatable because of the movie The Devil's Advocate. Remember that? Which is close to accurate. Go back and see it. You should watch it again. Now, Donald Trump is not an apostle or preacher or that God put him in office necessarily, but God knew that he would run and win in 2017. The Constitution is sort of a written from a biblical standpoint. Then America First makes for practical common sense, or it should make for practical common sense. People felt like this country was getting robbed and the elites were getting richer and richer without regard for the American people. You must understand that God ties his own hands to the choice of man, called freedom of will. The true God gave a book of answers to be read or ignored, called the Bible. One of the vehicles for the devil advocate is globalism, one world order. Because America is now a superpower, the devil's advocate wants his people to run it. And we've called that the swamp. Let's take a look at Revelation chapter 12, verse 9 and a few following. 12:9. And that great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. Now remember, he deceived the whole world. He was cast out into earth, and his angels were cast out with him. For the advocate to deceive the whole world, he must have access. The best way is through globalism, one world order. Then it's easy for him to move to the top of one throne set up as a world headquarters. See that? Separate nations doing their own thing is harder to rule. It takes a while to convince and mobilize his people to be convinced of globalist causes, United Nations, climate change, and the so-called shortage of resources. All this requires global management. The Tower of Babel was building such a nation, and many others tried in history, the Roman Empire being one that is well known. Now the Tower of Babel. In Genesis chapter 11, 4 through 9, and they said, "Go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach into heaven." That just means tall, in short. "And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, "Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will restrain from them which they have imagined to do." Nothing will restrain them. Seems like a good idea. Man rules and his imagination, meaning his own right and wrong, all against God. This will not give man a choice. He will be locked into some law or rule that if you do not obey, you will not be able to work or buy food. He will take your choice. This is all behind some so-called great causes, turning choice away from believing in God. This is exactly what happened in Noah's day and the flood. Look at Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every what imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. See? Back to the Tower of Babel, starting in Genesis 11, 7 through 9. Go to, let us go down, and therefore confound their language. God did this, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. The tower was a tall Capitol building, let's say. This would have spoiled the Christ line and may have caused another flood by the evil of man. Remember Noah and the imaginations of man. How does the devil advocate convince men to fall for this stuff? By great false causes with half-truth. But the greatest is bribery and the promise of wealth and riches for the few. For power and money, they sell their own mother. Look at the worship, how they bow down. Matthew chapter 4, verse 8. Again, the devil taketh them up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. All of man's governing structure, like the governing power of all the offices, from business, music, politicians, media, the kingdoms of the world, that's what that is. Verse 9, and saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. They are actually recommitting to the devil's advocate under a twisted cause, putting it above the Constitution and the law. They're using blind emotion of the people, the gods of civil rights, so low as to convince man that a man can become a woman, that two men can be husband and husband. Remember, imaginations that literally go against the order of creation or even nature. They have to say there's no God. They have to say that. They say Trump caused chaos when chaos was already happening, like termites eating away at your house, unseen. Depending on how long the termites been allowed to live in that house, the more of the house you have to cut away to get rid of them. That process, the evil will say is chaos to get you to stop. Those termites do not want to leave their stolen home. You must cut out and drill holes to get them out. You have to drill holes and put poison in. Then you can rebuild. What will hold back the devil's advocate? Secularly, let it be America first, with proper interpretation of the Constitution. Us so-called believers of the one true God getting back to the rightly divided scriptures. Let the scriptures prioritize and define good causes. So thanks, Mr. Trump, for showing us those termites, or should I say, President Trump.